Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Bill Cancel here, host of the Barico BC2 show. How's everybody doing this morning? It is a cold Tuesday morning, but the winds have finally died down, thank God. So it's actually quite pleasant out this morning. I'll take that. I don't mind the cold as long as I don't have any wind. But wow, I've been licking wind for 3 weeks. It's unbelievable. So this morning I want to come out here and do a quick chat with everybody regarding the infamous Epstein files. I know people are all over the place on what's going to happen and who's going to do what and what can he stop and the whole theories and so on. So I wanted just to come out and give my opinion as to what I think is going to happen based on some factual evidence. To summarize the show in one sentence, he can't stop the file release. He can only delay the file release. So let's just set the tone for the show just on that. He can't stop. He can just delay. Okay. And we're going to go over some details and then we'll wrap up at the end to kind of summarize the whole thing. So first of all, can Trump block the Epstein files after a discharge petition? The claim is that Trump will veto the discharge petition bill. Reality, he can veto the bill, but the veto has zero impact on the release of the files unless the bill itself requires presidential action, which these typically do not. If the discharge petition is tied to a House resolution demanding release, a court-ordered unsealing, a DOJ transparency requirement, the president does not have the veto power. Resolution do not go to the president. Bottom line, Trump can veto a bill. He cannot veto a House action, subpoena, or court unsealed order. Punchline. It's like trying to veto a divorce decree. You don't get a vote. So there's really not much he can do based on that. The next claim, Trump will declare the Epstein file under active investigation and freeze them. This is just a fear tactic. Here's what the real analysis is. What Trump can do, he can order DOJ to claim ongoing investigation sensitivity, claim that premature release could interfere with active federal matters, direct DOJ to resist disclosure under the FOIA exceptions, slow walk compliance, we'll talk about that, challenges releases in court. This creates a delay, not prevention. Delay, not prevention. What he cannot do, he cannot retroactively classify materials that have already been ruled releasable. He cannot retroactively classify materials that have already been ruled releasable. Say that again. Override a federal judge unsealing orders. Stop Congress from accessing documents. Prevent states from releasing state-level Epstein records. Block materials not in executive branch custody. Bottom line, Trump can easily delay months, but not permanently stop release ordered by Congress or the courts. Another analogy to put this is that he can stall the elevator, but he can't take the cables out. Trump will use executive privilege, another big claim. Reality, executive privilege applies to presidential communications, not criminal evidence, not sex trafficking investigation, and not sealed court records. Trump has no legal privilege over DOJ case files. Again, has no legal privilege over DOJ case files. Federal evidence logs, witness statements, grand jury materials, Epstein civil case documents, sealed court document transcripts. He cannot claim privilege over things he had nothing to do with. He cannot claim privilege over things he had nothing to do with. Bottom line, executive privilege is a universal shield. Punchline, you can't claim a privilege to something that you never even touched, which is what he's trying to do. Okay, next misclaim. Trump will classify the files. This is widely misunderstood. The president can classify executive branch material, but he cannot classify court documents, congressional records, state police investigations, evidence already in custody of non-executive entities, materials a judge had ruled eligible for release, anything legally classified for political protection. Federal courts can and have overruled classification attempts used to hide criminal or reputational information. He could classify certain federal investigative memos, but not the core Epstein files. Again, he can classify certain federal investigative memos, but the core he cannot do that for the core Epstein files. Next thing, Trump will order DOJ to prosecute anyone who releases them. This is, again, another scare tactic. That's all that this is. He cannot prosecute Congress. He cannot prosecute federal judges. clerks obeying court orders, state officials releasing state documents, Congress executing its legislative powers. The DOJ cannot prosecute people for obeying lawful orders. That's the bottom line. The DOJ cannot prosecute people for obeying a lawful order. That the only thing he can do is try to intimidate, which he's doing, try to destroy, try to delay through litigation, which he's doing, try to slow down agencies, which he's doing. But the delay is not infinite or permanent. The real world outcome can Trump delay release of certain pieces? Yes, absolutely. Weeks to months he can delay that. We'll talk about that at the end in the wrap up. Can Trump stop or block release permanently? No, not if court order releases, a judge orders unsealing, state agencies control portions, a discharge petition triggers legislative action. Most powerful tool he has right now is stalling. But stalling is not blocking, and that's an important thing to remember. And the courts do not tolerate stalling in a high profile case. The key takeaway the fear isn't that Trump can block files. He can't. The fear is that he can only delay the files, but once the House acts, once the courts act, once state level files are involved, the train is leaving the station without him. Okay, so what does that all mean? So to me, that means that the files will come out eventually. But this is just a massive stalling tactic for him, right? He's the champion of playing the legal realm and so on and so forth, and he's just trying to delay us for a couple of more months. I'm not quite sure why. I'm not quite sure why he wants to delay us for a couple more months because eventually they're going to have to come out, right? Um, so, given all that, I still just don't understand what his game is because if he gets us to the precipice of where the files would be released and does any of this that I just mentioned, stalling tactics that I just mentioned, delay it, he now goes right back to where he was as being the sole chief person responsible for not releasing the file, which was what he's trying to take claim of now that he's not, and that we have nothing to hide. And the Republicans, he doesn't want the Republicans to look bad. So you're going to stall the release? Again, I think he's not anticipating. First of all, he didn't anticipate that he would get so much negative attention on the Epstein files, period, because he's just such a narcissist. And number two, he seems to have caved by saying, "Okay, I'll let the vote happen," so on and so forth. That wasn't a cave. That was a strategic political move on his part to try to do damage control. And three, he now wants to recreate the exact same scenario that's causing him to do the damage control by stalling the release of the file. So again, in closing, it's not that it's not going to happen. It just becomes the question as to when it's going to happen. So if you think that the files are going to release by Friday at 5 o'clock, sorry, team, I got bad news for you. That shit ain't going to happen, right? It's just not going to happen. He at some point in I would be shocked if by this Friday I can come out on the air and say I can't believe it. He's ordered the release of all the files. Let's see what happens, right? It's not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. All he's going to do is again just try to play the stall game, the stall game, the stall game, the stall game, and like I've said before, the train, assuming the discharge petition goes through today, which I think it will, assuming the 100 quote unquote Republicans jump ship on this thing, which I think is a fair chance of happening, and vote for the discharge petition. Uh, his delays are going to be pretty much useless because now the people are screaming more and more for it. Even his people are screaming more and more for it. So interesting times coming up. Again, I just wanted to do this show this morning just to kind of calm everybody, set the tone, and list a couple of things of what they could expect over the next couple of days, weeks, and so on and so forth. But this is not dying. This is just beginning. This is just a big stall tactic. Have a great day, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.